Rachel and Monica. Monica just stole your thunder, Rachel.
Cannot believe you just hit me with a Friends reference when you're being a bad friend because I'm so upset about what just happened.
You know? That's what makes us wonder how America's so productive. Everyone's watching Speeches Championship on 11 a.m. on a Friday.
You're so Gunther right now. That hurts, doesn't it?
Call me Gunther. The worst character of maybe any not chess TV, any TV show ever.
F5, by the way.
That's Hikaru. Look at the time, by the way. More than he started with. Up and equal on the clock. Ooh, look at that. That's Hikaru checking up on opening theory, number 7. Hikaru Nakamura, number 7. Okay. Is this still opening theory, or I don't know if I buy it. I'm going to take D7 if I'm so, and then take E5. Why not? I guess I have to worry about F2. That's why I answered my own question.
Perhaps there's some kind of bishop D3 and light square initiative. Well, because you look at this pawn structure, no longer do you have an F pawn, you have an pawn H6 rather than H7. So you would love, and there's bishop D3, step 1. You would love to infiltrate along the light squares.
Bishop to E3 played now, holding the center and guarding F2 makes sense. The long-term risk of F5 is the big thing to watch out for here, everybody. The F5, as aggressive as it is, opening the F file, the light squares are something you're going to be worried about. I like this move. You know what I would do if I had another move besides E4 winning a piece? I wouldn't even take with the bishop. I would have sacked the exchange. You know it.
I would have been here for it too.
Yep.
And that's why Wesley is saying, I don't want any part of that. He gives himself an isolated pawn, but perhaps those light squares, that's what I'm keep looking at on the queen side, those light squares. I want to take advantage of them.
Knight G4, Queen D7 now played with the threat of knight takes G4. Note that white doesn't want to trade here. All you're doing is helping the rooks double on the F file.
And actually, white might welcome the trade on G4, though, because if I take with my H pawn there, that gives me the F5 square for my bishop.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Maybe bishop C2 here and just go Queen D3. Go for the mate.
Well, the light squares are a problem, right? Jay-Z wrote about it, 99 of them.
They're only 32, but, we can make it work.
Hey. Bishop G6, okay, not exactly the battery you were hoping for to lead to checkmate, but it is sort of Marcellus Wallace surgical up in the light squares. Shout out to C. Duffy, who says, when Danny and Robert commentate, we all win.
Wow. That's a huge compliment.
Oh, man. And 9,000 plus people heard that. They do like us, Robert.
I was going to make a self-deprecating joke, but I'm going to hold my tongue.
Yeah, you don't need to. I'd leave that to me, buddy. Bishop E6 now played because he hears you on taking G4, letting H takes G4 be a problem. So black is officially threatening to win a pawn.
Is Wesley going to sack on H6? He put his bishop on G6. I'm expecting the next bishop to land on H6.
Come on. There's some tender light squares over here. Queen H5. A bit of a...
Doesn't go for it.
Oh, he's threatening D5.
Yeah, so black should probably play D5 himself to stop that.
Okay, instead he gets the pieces off the board. Again, if things simplify here, you have to like Hikaru's chances. Black is playing with a bigger target in the endgame than anything white has, the D4 pawn.
Yep.
And the fact that he's also up almost a minute on the clock shows that Hikaru also heard the cry of the power rankings and said, I know Wesley's good at 3-1, but I'm pretty good at this too. I'm gonna get a time advantage and then show you I know how to use it.
E5 played, just trying to trade off that bishop on B6. Now the C7 pawn is feeling more tender,
right?
Because the bishop on B6 was so strong, not just hitting the D4 square, but protecting
F2.
Black's real vulnerable point.
Sorry, C7. Okay, but Queen F7 is a double attack on D5. I don't know. I mean, the transition makes it hard for me to believe D5 doesn't fall long before C7 does. The question will be, can white get some other kind of pressure to compensate for it, like the E file?
And very important to note is king safety. Black's king feels a little bit less safe because, well, you have this, you go to the H7 square, but there are 3 pawns in front of the white king and only 2 in front of the black king. The rook's already in the 7th rank. So rook G5 is known by queen E4. You don't want to get mated on G2. So you trade queens.
Right.
Then you put both of your rooks in the 7th rank. And I cannot see a way where white loses this. Maybe I'm underestimating.
Yeah, but black is probably the only one who can win. I guess he is up a pawn. Although, no, I hear you, though. It's one of those positions where up a pawn or the 7th rank? Which would you take? Just don't ask 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬.
He had both, and he still lost that game.
We love you, 𝙬𝙬. You're one of our favorites. Sorry, buddy.
I feel so badly for him. He actually just lost the tiebreak to 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 in the Prague Masters. If he'd beaten Navarra, he just would have won the tournament outright. He lost that game, lost the final game to Duda, lost the tiebreak to 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, and everything went poorly.
That was a subtle shout out to a Game of the Day video from yesterday where David Navarra won a dead loss position as black versus 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬. You can check it out right here on our YouTube channel for some of you already there. Yeah, but poor 𝙬𝙬. We love him to death, but he did not finish strongly there in Prague, and I don't even know why we're talking about it. Here we go. Because Wesley has got the 7th rank, and something tells me he'll use it a little bit better than 𝙬𝙬 did.
Yeah. I think Hikaru's trying to get his rook to the 2nd rank, but something to keep an eye on is f4, f5, and f6. Like if I can just throw my pawn down the board, there could be some problems for that black king. But I probably doesn't actually work out. Like black's going to see that coming and not just allow you to get the pawn all the way there.
a4, nice transition. We are headed for a draw now, most likely, because after the trade, assuming Wesley just cleans up the b pawn, there's really no way the 3-on-2 would ever be big enough to win. So, and he does indeed clean up the pawn, but we're gonna head for a draw. In fact, Wesley just offers it with that move. Instead of even trying to save the f pawn, he says, "Nietzsche, we have peace throughout the land." So, back to a Petrov, which I think went okay for Wesley, right? We had that game where black was in control until he didn't play d5, as you called, and prevented Hikaru from undoubling his pawn. So we'll see. Nope, we're not going to get a repeat of that line.
I didn't like the way it looked for Hikaru the last time around, so things have changed, and Hikaru delays the d4 push. And well, now d4 is not possible because the knight pinned on f3. You have to be careful. You can just do what you want to do. But throwing h3 makes sense. And well, do you want to go g4 as white? I would be very nervous before making a move that's so committal on the king side, creating air in front of your king, and also we talk about hooks. When you play g4 by yourself, you're allowing black to counter very quickly.
This is kind of funny. It's almost the reverse Scotch structure that they were having. Not exactly that knight d4 line, but if you just look at it and flip colors, this is a structure black sometimes has playing against the Scotch and white sometimes plays. But we've got g4. This is a risk it or biscuit kind of position for both sides because white up a pawn, but with a king and a whole bunch of light squares weak to go with it. I'm not sure who I would take here.
I would definitely take black, and I would go bishop e5, rook e5, pawn f5, and just try to barrel open the king side. Opposite colored bishops are advantageous when you have an attack. And so if I just take your knight on e5, your bishop on c1 looks terrible. My bishop on g6 has clear promise in the position. Opening the f file is good for my rook. King safety is paramount, and black's king is safe. Hikaru's is not.
He hears your cry. He plays bishop takes e5, and let's go to the analysis board just to see it, because I think you called the line, and it's worthy of reviewing. Black is in a huge advantage here, despite being down a pawn, which tells you something, right? The king being open, the light squares being a problem. Wesley trades on e5, plays f5, and now after a queen e2, he's picking between flavors of how to open up the light squares to the king here. I mean, a lot of ways to do this. He takes to make f2 a weakness, and now what? You can even just bring a rook to e8.
Rook e8 looks great.
Yeah. I mean, h5 is always interesting. Rook f4 is interesting here, I think.
You know why I like rook e8, Danny, is you're throwing bishop e4.
Oh, rook over, and if d4, you have bishop e4 check. The queen can't take because the f2 pawn hangs, and if the rook takes, you trade. And once again, the rook and queen are hitting f2. What a find. What an x-ray. Although rook f4, the other move I was suggesting, I think just as good as rook e8, hitting g4 and threatening to double rooks, seems to do the trick here. Wesley So, with this victory, would bring the match to a 1-game lead for Hikaru Nakamura. And again, if you're just tuning in, it was once a 4-game advantage for the 5-time U.S. champion, known as Hikaru Nakamura, but we're gonna have a close finish. Thank you for the active and positive chat across many platforms. We see you, and thanks for being here and showing us your support. It's a lot of fun, and the day is Man, if Smarter Chess ends up being right, not only that this is a coin flip, but it goes to overtime, I'm gonna fire Matt. Like, I'm tired of it. If he's right again, I'm done. Like, you just go find somewhere else to work, you know?
I mean, he does have somewhere else to work.
I know, and he has a great job, you know, at the Mayo Clinic working on much bigger problems in the medical industry than chess. So, shout out to Matt.
Queen H3 check.
Wesley's going to win this game, and we're going to have a one game lead for Nakamura.
I was going to say Queen H3 taking on C3, just scooping everything off.
Everything.
A1 rook is hanging, C2 is hanging, the D4 pawn is hanging. Just keep taking things.
Take it all. Hikaru just resigns, not even